Fear of failure is the mother of procrastination. Perfectionism is the father of procrastination. If you've been hesitating on taking action or taking a step forward into becoming something else, improving yourself, starting a project, or taking that leap of faith, understand one thing. Stop trying to be perfect and stop being scared that if you do it, you're not gonna do it good. You probably won't do it good. But the point is, if you keep doing it, you're gonna get better at it. If you don't do it, you won't progress at all. Our overconfidence tends to be what stops us from continuously learning on how to get better. For example, myself, I decided to go into the communication niche when it came to what kind of YouTube videos I wanted to make. I wanted to really help people tell their stories by learning how to tell my story. And in order to learn better how to tell my story, I decided to improve my communication skills and teach the things that I was learning along the way, along with the stuff that I've already picked up over my years of public speaking, touring all over the world, and doing different types of live events. As I've learned different things in communication, it did create a sense of confidence, but it made me feel like I didn't need to learn anything new about communication. I got to a point where things were starting to become a little bit more automatic for me. I was getting booked, I knew what I was doing, and I reached what some people might call a ceiling. At that point, I had to decide, am I good with this ceiling? Do I feel like there's nothing else that I need to learn? Or do I want to adopt a growth mindset and understand that there's always something to be learned in the world that we live in? And once I understood that there's still a lot for me to learn, it was a lot easier for me to understand the reason I was fearing failure is because I didn't want to try to do the stuff that I wasn't necessarily good at. But a lot of the stuff that I wasn't necessarily good at was the stuff that was going to take me to another level. Now, when it comes to communication, that's something that I was already good at. If I got cocky enough to think that I didn't need to continue to practice that, to continue to learn new tactics in that, and to continue to improve and build upon what I already have in that, I wouldn't be here making these YouTube videos right now, and I wouldn't be attempting and growing into a new field to create a new pathway for myself. You have to keep a growth mindset. If you continue to think you're too good already, you've learned everything you need already, you're scared to fail, or you have to do it perfect from the beginning, nothing new is gonna happen to you. A lot of people don't know how to implement a growth mentality or a student mindset because it's hard to figure out where to start and how to learn when you're not in school or when you're not in some type of mentorship. Now, I didn't have a mentor come and tell me like, hey, Laurent, you should be a communications coach, or hey, Laurent, you should share what you've learned about communication. Nobody told me that. But what I did know was this is something I'm really good at. This is something I have a natural affinity for. This is something I don't think I'll get bored talking about for probably the rest of my life. And it's also something that I think that there's no ceiling in how good you can get at communicating. Mastery in that never stops because as people are constantly evolving, how we're communicating is constantly evolving, and all of that is constantly changing. And it took me a while to make that decision. I had to sit with myself and have a conversation with myself about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to go about doing it. So when I settled on the idea of communication and sharing the value that I've learned about communication and that I'm continuing to learn about communication, it became a lot easier to implement. Now, the reason I bring up fear of failure and perfectionism was when I first started, I didn't quite know how to go about putting these videos out. I kept thinking, I have to know all the Harvard level, Yale level communication books. I have to know all the perfect ways to deliver the message of teaching communication. I have to know how to articulate. I have to know how to teach vocal variety. I have to learn how to teach diction. I thought that I needed to become a PhD in communications in order to help anybody with communication. And that is part of the perfectionism problem when it comes to procrastination. Because instead of just going in and trying to teach the stuff that I already knew and the stuff that I learned and the stuff I wish I knew when I was younger, I was trying to be a perfect image of what I thought people needed to say, that guy knows what he's talking about. When in reality, all I have to do is be one step ahead of somebody else and teach them how I took that step. And from there, I continue to take more steps, but because I was that one step ahead, more people behind me can learn how I took those steps. So it's not about being perfect at what you do in order to take steps forward. It's about deciding that you're going to take a step forward in the first place. So for me, I decided, hey, let me just learn about communication and keep learning about it and teach what I already know. Now, deciding to learn was easy. Figuring out what to learn was the hard part. One tip that I would say for figuring out what to learn to keep a growth mindset is try to do something. Try to do something that's a little bit different. What was different for me was making YouTube videos. It was different for me to start making YouTube videos where I'm telling stories, where I'm teaching stuff, I'm being vulnerable. This was a different field for me, but it was adjacent to what I already do, which is public speaking and being a live host. So as I went into it, I was trying to figure out, okay, I want to teach communication. I want to learn communication. Let me learn how to teach communication, because although I have a certain level of mastery in communication already, and I did study communication most of my life, how to teach it is a completely different beast. So what I started doing was I started looking at other communications coaches and other people that emphasize the importance of improving your communication skills. I started emulating how they talk about it. I started emulating what they talk about, what were the lessons that they prioritized, and what does the general public need to know about communication that made these guys the leaders in the niche. As I started studying what was happening in the niche that I was curious about, I started implementing some of the things that I was watching, and as I was watching and implementing, I was learning. And after learning, watching, and observing, I was able to repackage some of the things I learned and apply it based on my experience. So now new people can apply the same things I've learned, but it might hit them a little bit differently based on their experience. But at least they were able to get it packaged in a way that resonated with them, because the people that taught me things, they resonated with me. But that doesn't mean that they resonate with everyone. It's important that you understand, don't think that something is too saturated. You never know who you can reach and who you can help until you decide to be somebody who wants to reach and wants to help. When I look back at some of the issues that I was having when I was starting out this entrepreneurial and YouTube venture, it was really a lot of me being in my own head, thinking that I didn't have anything to provide, didn't have any value to give, I'm not able to teach people these things. That was all just the lizard brain talking. Self-improvement is an everlasting battle. Every day, every week, every month, every year, you have to keep making the decision to get better. Keep making the decision that you want to grow. So as you keep making those decisions, you have to keep having the conversations with yourself, asking in what aspects you want to grow in. What do you need and how can you help? Because there's other people that are going to want to grow that you might be the voice that they need to hear to help them grow, whether it's somebody in your life or somebody who follows you on social media. The whole point here is to not fall prey to the predator that is procrastination. Perfectionism does not happen. It's not real for us. The closest thing you can get to perfectionism is incremental progression. And incremental progression requires you to show up every day for yourself. And it requires you to understand that there's always room for you to grow. There's always room for you to get better. There's always room for progress. I promise adopting that mindset allows you to stay humble, but also, how can you doubt yourself when you know how much work you've put into getting better? You know you've put in the hours, and you know you have the mindset to want to get better. That's where confidence comes from. You did the work, so how can you doubt what you're capable of if you know you've done the work? Most of our imposter syndrome or self-doubt comes from understanding that we might be missing something. And mind you, it's okay. It's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to be missing something. But don't let that be the reason you don't at least try to take the step forward. Because when you take the step forward, what you're missing becomes a lot more clear. Early on when I was learning video editing, instead of watching tutorials saying, this is how you video edit, you shoot, you record, you do this, you upload, you blah, instead of understanding like the granular step-by-step process of watching somebody else go from step A to step Z for creating a video, I decided, let me go do the video. Let me go try to edit it. Let me shoot it. Let me record it. Let me go do what I know. And as soon as I get stuck, as soon as there's something specific that I can't do, let me learn that specific thing and then implement that. So it's not me sitting there watching a 40-minute video, watching hours on end of tutorials on how to do something. It's me doing it when I need to learn something because I'm stuck. I go study that thing. I come back and I implement it. The best way to keep growing is to increase your rate of learning and implementation, because you're learning for a reason and you're learning to put it into an action. There was a point where I thought that I already had it all figured out when it came to this communication stuff. It's the small, minor mindset shift of understanding that I am a forever student, and also just me being one step ahead is something that can help somebody behind me. gave me a newfound understanding of how to go about providing value to the people I want to provide value to, as well as how I want to look and frame my own self and how I want to frame the idea of self-development. I didn't want to make this video too long. I have a lot more videos coming out, but I did want to really hammer home the idea of don't wait until you're perfect to try. Don't think that if you fail, that you can't keep going. You have to learn how to take those steps forward. And it doesn't matter what niche you're in. I'm in the entertainment field, but I decided to focus on communication because I value the importance communication has and how we self-develop, how we storytell, how we brand, how we market, how we do anything starts in communication. How you communicate with yourself, how you communicate with one, and how you communicate with many. My name is Apex Laurent, and like I always say, I'm here to help you better tell your story by sharing my story. Make sure you check out my free communication book. The link is in the description. It's a free communication workbook that can help you develop your communication skills or better understand how you can implement the idea of self-improvement through communication in your life, professionally, relationships-wise, entrepreneurially, or just your own personal life. Bettering your communication creates a better version of you. Check that out, link in the description. Also, if you like the hat, link in the description as well. Or just go download that free workbook. Either way, you know I'm gonna be right back here on YouTube telling my story to help you tell your story so we can make history.